She's dead weight, Director Cole snapped, loud enough for the whole floor to hear. You've got 1 hour to pack, Marcus. Make it quick. The room went still. Even the interns froze mid-type. My name is Marcus Ellison. And in that moment, as 20 pairs of eyes glanced up from their monitors, pretending not to stare, I just nodded. Come. Controlled. Understood, I said, sliding my coffee aside. Cole smirked like she'd won. She even leaned against my desk while I calmly shut my laptop. You always were too soft to survive this world, she added, voice syrupy and loud enough to echo. The word survive stuck with me. I looked up at her slowly. May I ask what grounds I'm being dismissed on? You'll get the email, she shrugged. And HR's busy right now, so just go quietly, okay? I nodded again. I reached into the drawer. Removed my pen. My notebooks. My black leather folio. But what I didn't pack was the key. The key to everything. People started whispering as I walked toward the elevator. I could feel the tension peel off them like static. Not a single one spoke up. Not even Mason, who I once helped cover rent. That was the moment I knew. Cole had no idea who I really was. Tomorrow morning, the boardroom will smell like scorched paper. And Cole? She'll be sitting exactly where I want her, before I rip the floor out from under her. I didn't drive straight home. Instead, I parked 2 blocks from my private office, the one nobody at the company knew existed. The place where, for the last 14 months, I'd been quietly collecting every email, contract, and transaction Director Cole had signed in my name. You see, I wasn't just some mid-level project manager. I was the co-founder, the silent partner, the man who invested the seed capital before my former friend, now CEO, buried me under layers of stock dilution, legal fog, and fake performance reviews. Cole thought she erased me, but she forgot who built the original codebase. I pulled up the security footage from the floor's internal server. As I expected, Cole had already instructed HR to mark my termination as involuntary misconduct. A legal move that froze any severance or dispute appeal. Clever. But not clever enough. I opened my legal folder and hit send all to a confidential inbox. One monitored by my attorney and, more importantly, by 2 board members who were already suspicious. The file name was simple. Project Cole's Collapse. By the time I left that night, the final piece was in motion. A shareholders meeting request, citing clause 3.17 of the operating agreement. A clause Cole signed years ago. The clause that gives the founder emergency override. By noon tomorrow, her keycard wouldn't work. And she still had no idea. At 9:07 a.m., I walked through the front doors of Ellison Rook Tech with the calmness of a man who'd already won. Nobody recognized me in the charcoal 3-piece suit. I passed the reception desk just as Cole strutted out of the elevator, a latte in one hand and her usual smirk dialed up for maximum ego. She saw me, blinked, paused. Marcus? She asked, like she'd forgotten she had me erased from the company portal less than 24 hours ago. I smiled. You might want to cancel your 10 a.m. status update. Before she could speak, Richard Vance, board member and former U.S. attorney, stepped out from the side conference room. Ms. Cole, he said crisply, you'll need to surrender your company-issued devices. Effective immediately, your directorship is suspended pending review. Cole's mouth opened but no sound came out. On what grounds? She finally stammered. Richard nodded toward me. Marcus triggered clause 3.17. Founder override. We've seen the documents. I stepped into the elevator and pressed the top floor, the executive suite I hadn't entered in 3 years. Cole shouted something as the doors closed, but I didn't care. The office she'd mocked me in yesterday was now mine again. But I wasn't done yet. Because there was still one person upstairs who helped her forge my signature, and I was about to look him in the eye. The top floor was glass, steel, and silence. My silence. I stepped out of the elevator and walked down the corridor I'd designed in the early years, when this company still felt like a dream. Behind the frosted glass of the corner office stood Brandon Kane, my former co-founder, and the man who'd quietly sold his loyalty to the highest bidder. He looked up, stunned, mid-conversation with our CFO. Marcus, he said, half rising. You're? I tossed the leather folio onto his desk. Inside, emails, signed forms, and a USB with one damning video. Brandon discussing the override plan with Cole over drinks. Laughing. Gloating. He paled. Is this some kind of joke? Check the timestamps, I said coldly. You filed forged documents while I was hospitalized last year. That was my mother's funeral week, Brandon. He opened his mouth then closed it. His hands trembled. I leaned forward. You signed your career away for a temporary promotion. And now, the board has all of it. Behind me, Richard Vance stepped in again. Mr. Kane, security will escort you out. As Brandon stood, eyes hollow, I whispered, I would have given you everything. You took it anyway. The CFO avoided my gaze as she slipped out. I was alone in the room now. Until I opened the bottom drawer of Brandon's desk, and saw something that made me pause in disbelief. It was a blue folder. No labels. Just thick, expensive paper. The kind used for private contracts or contingency plans. Something about it didn't belong in Brandon's drawer. I pulled it out, flipped it open, and froze. Inside were signed letters, resignation notices, from 6 department heads. All dated for tomorrow. Each one addressed to Brandon, thanking him for the transition opportunity and discreet exit terms. I scanned faster. A payout clause. Stock transfers. A timeline. He was planning a mass exodus. One that would have gutted operations the morning after I reclaimed the company. Not to hurt me, but to destroy it before I had a chance to rebuild. I sat back in his chair, heart pounding. I had been so focused on the coup, on the betrayal. I missed the deeper rot. This wasn't just about ego. It was war. I pressed the intercom. Richard, get me Ava Tran and Daniel Holloway. No. Emergency session. Brandon thought he could sink the ship on his way out. But I had one card left, and it wasn't legal, financial, or even corporate. It was personal. A secret only Brandon and I knew from 10 years ago in Berlin. One he'd buried so deep he thought I'd forgotten. But I hadn't. And it was time to unearth it, in front of every board member. Because once that secret came out, no one would follow him again. Not ever. The boardroom was dead silent. 12 seats filled, not a single movement as I slid the envelope onto the polished mahogany table. Before we proceed, I said evenly, I'd like to revisit a decision made 10 years ago in Berlin. A very specific acquisition that was shut down, for reasons not recorded in the minutes. Brandon shifted in his chair. Subtle, but I saw it. A flicker of panic. I've retrieved internal emails from that time, I continued, tapping the envelope, and I've also brought copies of witness testimonies, names redacted for now. But they confirm what I remember. The room leaned forward. Brandon, would you like to explain why you accepted a $3.2 million bribe from the CEO of Ortel Systems to kill our merger, and then rerouted the funds through your cousin's shell company? Brandon's voice cracked. That's a lie. I smiled. You're right. It was a lie. One you told the government when they launched their quiet inquiry in 2017. Which you settled, using company shares you weren't authorized to leverage. Ava Tran, the most silent of our senior board, turned toward him. You dragged this company through hell, she said, voice low. And you thought we wouldn't find out. I stood. Brandon Whitmore, as of this moment, you are suspended from all roles pending legal proceedings. He stood too, defiant, until the security guards entered. You can't do this, he snapped. I looked him dead in the eyes. I just did. Brandon's chair was still spinning when the door slammed behind him. Silence returned, thicker now, but not with fear. With clarity. I turned to the rest of the board. We've all made compromises, I said. But some lines should never have been crossed. I opened my briefcase again. Inside was a second folder. Thinner. This one was personal. I founded Ellison and Gray when I was 28, I said. What most of you don't know is that I built it on a promise I made to my brother, a veteran who never made it home. He believed in integrity, in doing what's right even when it hurts. I laid the folder in front of Ava. In 2 weeks we're restructuring. New ethics protocols. Independent oversight. And no more golden parachutes for corruption. She looked at me then nodded. I'll stand by that, she said. So did 2 others. But one man, Dylan Roth, VP of Strategy, didn't flinch. Didn't move. Just stared at the photo in the folder. A still from CCTV footage showing him and Brandon exchanging a manila envelope 3 years ago. I met his eyes. You're next. Don't run. That evening I went back to my apartment. It was quiet. Peaceful. But I knew it wouldn't last. Because the next morning, I'd receive a single message on my personal number from a blocked contact. It read, You really think this is over, Marcus? I stared at the message, the cursor blinking beneath those words. You really think this is over, Marcus? It was Brandon's style, theatrical, desperate. But it wasn't his number. No name. Just the threat. I walked to the balcony. Morning traffic blurred below, unaware that a storm was brewing in the penthouse above. I wasn't scared. I was prepared. I had already arranged the final move. At exactly 10 a.m., the elevator doors opened on the executive floor of Ellison and Gray. Journalists poured out, cameras, mics, flashing lights. At the same time, Ava, now interim CEO, stepped forward with poise. "I'd like to make a statement on behalf of our founder, Marcus Ellison," she began. "Today we are releasing a full internal audit revealing 3 years of embezzlement, abuse of power, and conspiracy by former executive Brandon Chase and his allies. This company belongs to the people who built it, not those who tried to bleed it." The press erupted. Brandon would see it on every channel. So would Dylan. So would everyone who thought I was just a quiet man collecting paychecks and ignoring shadows. They underestimated silence. And silence is where the sharpest revenge takes root. Later that night, I received one more message. From Ava. For words only, "It's done. We're clean." I leaned back, letting the peace settle in. This time it was real.